So how are you?
I'm good. I just got back from the gym.
Nice.
I'm currently in the studio every day filming a documentary for a big band while finishing Ride or Die to get it ready for the movie premiere in Texas at the end of March. So it's a little crazy. And then yesterday was my birthday.
I know yesterday was your birthday. Happy birthday. How was it? Did you
Thank
do
you.
anything fun?
Yeah, so the day before, the band I'm doing the documentary with took me out to dinner. And then on my birthday, I got these like boots that I really liked. They were like $500. And then this is really nerdy, but I got this like $1,600 Apple monitor that's like color calibrated. So when I'm editing photos and music videos, it's accurate. And later this week, I'll get some like gym clothes and stuff. But on my birthday, I had to like rush in the morning to get the gifts and then run to the studio, film all day, and then rush to a restaurant to have dinner with my family, and then come home, work till midnight. And then I got up at 6 a.m. to edit the photos from yesterday, go to the gym, and then I'm going back to the studio because we have an orchestra coming in, a gospel choir, and I have to like film all of that. And then I'm shooting all week, every day in the studio. And then on Sunday, I'm shooting all of the press stuff for the band, all of the merch. It's a massive photo shoot. And then they fly out. And then I have 4 days to edit that before I do another music video. And then I go to Miami. And then I come back. And then I go to Texas to shoot a music video and have the movie premiere and location scout for my first ever feature film, which is going to be a horror film I shoot in Texas in June. And I have to somehow lose also like another 15 pounds by the premiere. So I'm tired. Anyway, I'm drinking coffee.
I'm tired just listening to all of that. I'm vicariously tired living through you and that. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of stuff going on, man. My
But it's
God.
also nice because after the health scare, the part other than like obviously almost dying that sucks, but the other
Yeah.
part that sucks is like it takes all of your money to get healthy and then there's no work for like 2 years because you're just forced to get healthy. So now that things are opening up again and I get to work, like I love hard work and I love being busy as long as it's aligned with my goals. And so if I'm making art, then I don't mind not having a life outside of that because it's like sometimes when I'm on vacation, I really instantly I'm like, well, I should write a script or take some photos. Like I don't like not doing anything unless I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
Or if there's a really good TV show and then I like my schedule's screwed for a week because I'll just watch every season.
Yeah. Been there.
But thank God there's not a lot of good stuff out recently.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So this is the first film since Americana.
Yeah.
Now that I'm back in the game, and this one, I loved Americana, but I feel like this one's 1,000 times better. And you know, every time I do a film, I dramatically learn more as a director. And so this was the first one that I wrote and directed and starred in and co-starred with this girl named Emma. There was a lot more, like the first film was like, how do you make a movie technically? And then this one was more like, what are all the aspects of storytelling and how to make the biggest emotional impact? And I think you watched the unfinished version, right?
I did watch the unfinished version. Yes.
Okay.
No, and it's really good. So you talk about, the storytelling and all of that. So how did this story come to life? Like, how did you think to do this particular storyline?
It's kind of random. So I went to LA for a couple of weeks and I was doing like 4 photo shoots a day. I was like going crazy. And the idea was to go to LA and sort of kickstart my career again and have meetings and see if I'm going to move back there. And on one of my photo shoots, I was photographing this girl named Emma, who's a model and an actress. And I kind of incorrectly just assumed she was like most of the LA models that I work with. And so we started shooting and she was more like me in the sense that we were both obsessed with movies and storytelling, and she liked old rock and like so there was a lot of things that we were able to connect on. And then I have my Harley here in Florida and I have another one in LA, and so I took the Harley in LA out and we were going to do a photo shoot of her on the Harley, and she was just like loving being on the back of the bike and the wind in her hair. And she like took her phone out and recorded just a clip of her hair in the wind and closed her eyes. And it later on, when I saw that clip, all of a sudden this story popped into my head. And I was like, I have this idea for a film. And I pitched it to her. And she was like so excited and wanted to help. So she didn't want to just act in it. She wanted to like produce it and make it happen. And so then that night I wrote the treatment, sent it to her. In the morning, she was like, let's fucking do this. And then immediately I wrote a script. I came back to Florida and I spent like a month kind of refining the script and developing her character. And I called my friend Carissa, who lives in Texas, and I was like, let's take over your town.
Yeah.
Carissa came on as a producer, and there's a saying of like, it takes a small village to make a movie. And in this case, we literally had a small village to make this movie.
Yeah, you did. So talk about that, because it's not a real big town that you were in, but you had like everybody involved in this. Everyone, even from like the chief of police and using their police cars in the movie. I mean, what was that like, and how did you go about even making that happen?
Well, ironically, when we released Americana was very popular in this town in Texas called Victoria. And so I developed some friendships there, and I really loved the town. It's like all the things I love about Texas, but still small town. And they really celebrate and love art. So, and then I had gone back and I shot a bunch of music videos and commercials and photo shoots for some of the locals, and I taught some classes. And then right after that, I got sick. And so they hadn't seen me in a while. And so when I said I was going to come back, some of the locals, like, ironically, one of my inspirations for the story is I kind of wanted it to be a love story, like sort of a Bonnie and Clyde origin story in a way. And then we picked this diner that we wanted to film in. And I found out while I was not knowing I'd picked it, I didn't know this, but then I went to tour and I found out Bonnie and Clyde ate there and then went and robbed people. And so we were filming this Bonnie and Clyde story in where Bonnie and Clyde had lunch. And the place it's the oldest deli in America, I think. So it was built in like 50 or something, like really old. And there's so much history there. And then we got this incredible rundown bar called The Barn that is like everything I love about like a grungy sort of biker Texas bar. And we got this old motel from the 50s that was pretty grimy. Everything you touched was very sticky and there was flies everywhere. And when we were filming all of the motel scenes, you can't tell, but it was like 115 degrees in the room with no AC and humid. There was a couple times, by that point, I don't think I had slept in like 4 days. So that point I was like kind of fainty. There's the moment where I thought I was going to pass out. So I went outside and instead of this guy helping me, he took photos of it and then he sent them to me. And it was just me, like, it like embodies all of the suffering that you have to endure. But anyway, so the town really embraced us. The mayor came out. The police chief met with us. The city attorney, the city gave us free permits. We were able to shut down a few blocks of the city. And then the police chief had the deputy police chief be in the film, and she was the one driving the police car. I had to do all the stunts in the movie because we couldn't afford extra insurance.
Yeah.
So I did all of the motorcycle stunts, and then we had an ex-cop of 30 years come on and be our gun person, our armor person, and we had a stunt girl. So, I'm not going to give too much of the story away, but there's some gun-related stunts. And a bunch of locals came out and they shot behind the scenes. They were PAs, they were extras. There's a scene where there's a robbery in the diner, and while we were filming it, I looked out and I saw an old lady shaking. And I realized that she thought we were really robbing the diner. And so I had to run out there and be like, it's okay, it's a movie. And you want to be in the movie? But anyway, coming from Los Angeles, where I think sometimes people take art for granted, and then going to a city where they were enthusiastic and supportive, and it was this beautiful family of people that all banded together to make something special it was really refreshing, because when I make films, it's sort of this little kid excitement, like every day on set, I'm like, I can't believe we get to make pretend and it's a job, like sometimes when people would get upset or serious, I'd be like, guys, like, we're not doing brain surgery. We're pretending.
Yeah. Right. It's what you love. And I think, we were talking earlier about how crazy your schedule is for the next few weeks. Yeah, I mean, there's a difference in doing something that drains you and then doing something that's creative, right? And it doesn't feel like, it's so much to do because you like doing it. And that's what
Yeah.
makes it so different, especially having a creative outlet like that. I mean, I'm not the most creative person, but I know like when I'm on vacation or something like that, I'm like, I have ideas about, oh, who do I want on my podcast? Oh, what questions do I want to ask them? Your wheels are kind of always turning and you can be inspired by just about anything. So I get that as someone who, yeah, can't really sit still either. You were directing. Now, what came first? You were directing music videos before diving into films, right? Am I
Yes.
right about that? Yeah. So I'm just curious to know, I mean, background do you bring from doing music videos and then kind of transitioning into doing films? Because I'm assuming it's different.
It's extremely different. And there are things that when you do music videos, the big thing I learned about narrative storytelling is when done well, it appears like it's easy. And so, you do music videos and those are tough, but fun. And then you get into narrative and you're like, oh, it must be the same thing, but it's 1,000 times harder, a million
Okay.
times harder. And there's this great quote I saw this movie executive say, which is, it takes just the same amount of money and effort to make a bad film as it does to make a good film. And so when I did this film, this is only the second narrative thing I've directed. I mean, I've directed, I don't know, 100 music videos. And when getting into storytelling, it's like 99% of the information you get out there is like wrong. And so you have to really figure out what the correct information is. And a lot of the information is intuitive, there's structure and things like that. But the great thing about doing music videos is I've never had a director allow me to come on set. So I've had to learn by just doing. And so you get used to different crews and different equipment and lighting and styles and movement and editing. But then when you get into narrative, it's like music video editing is completely different than narrative. In fact, in my films, if there's ever a montage, that's the easiest to edit because that's the most like a music video. But then in a narrative, it's like if you edit it too fast, it throws people out. The whole narrative filmmaking, it's like a magic trick. And the moment the audience feels like they can see the trick, they're upset and they mentally check out of the film. So you have to constantly pay attention to 1,000 little details. And the other trick is to really have the room and bandwidth to make a film really well. You need money and people. And so far, I've only worked on films where we have no money and barely any people and no time. And so, I remember there was a day when we were shooting in the diner, which is a very big scene. We had to shoot like motorcycle coming up to it, all of the dialogue, the robbery, the leaving. And it was like 4 p.m. and the police chief's outside with the police officers. I'm inside getting ready to do a robbery. And my assistant director is freaking out because we have to go shoot a motorcycle chasing with the police department with closed off streets in the city downtown before the sunset so that the light will match the scene before. And the road that we want to use, there happens to be like an art festival and they have personnel there. And so I'm trying to do this scene where I need to be emotional. I'm directing, I'm acting, I'm producing. And it's like the third day where people were kind of tired. So some people were a little cranky. So I'm also trying to like make sure people are being fed and happy. Because of all of the music video experience, I'm used to that pressure and solving problems really fast while keeping everybody inspired and happy. and not losing my mind. And so they came over, everyone was freaked out, and I was like, well, why don't we move one block over? We'll shoot right after sunset, and I'll have the colorist bring the light up to match the shot before. And everyone was like, great. So the police department went over there, they got the cops ready. We did our robbery scene, and then I hopped on a motorcycle and rushed over to the street, and then we did our police chase scene, and then it was nighttime. And then unfortunately I didn't get to sleep because then I went home and I stayed up till 3 a.m. prepping, and then I slept for an hour and a half, and then I got up prepping, and then I met the crew, and then we went to the next location. But I also know that I only have people there for 4 days, and I had people fly in from New Jersey, New York, Denver, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Texas. The thing I learned about film is like, once the film's out, no one cares about the problems you faced on set, or who didn't get enough sleep, or who was upset at who, or who didn't get their poke bowl, or who, whatever. It's like, all that matters is it a good film? And so I had to really push to take responsibility for anything that happened on set. Can't blame anybody. You're the director, so you are the captain. Properly manage everything. And the experience was incredible. The only thing I wish is I need to figure out how to sleep, because it makes it easier to remember your lines. So on the next one, which is my first movie, which will be an hour and a half, I'm going to set up the system where hopefully I will get some more sleep, because we'll be there for like 3 weeks.
Oh.
And we have a lot crazier stunts, and it's a crazier movie. But again, I'm watching the film, like, you haven't seen the music that I just put in, and it's like, I'm crying, and I'm like, this is so cool. Let's do it again. Anyway, but it's
I love that.
Similar but different than music videos.
Different, yeah. But let's stay on the topic of music, because you had 2 really interesting people involved with the score and the sound design. Like, how do you decide what that's going to be like? I mean, how much free range do you give the people that are coming in to do that part of the film?
It sounds weird, but like, choosing the musician for the film and the camera guy is like choosing your paintbrush and the medium of paint that you want to paint on the canvas, because music and sound is 50% of the film. But the challenge is you can do a million things. So what is the exact right thing to do? And so there's this composer who I'm a big fan of, and I've been friends with for over a decade. And he has won some Emmys, and he's been doing a lot of big movies. That's been going to all the big film fests and Netflix movies and documentaries, and extremely talented. And so I approached him about the film, and ironically, the guy who did the music for Americana, who's won 2 Oscars, mentored this guy. And even though this guy's style is completely different. And so I chose him because the way in which he writes the music and records the instruments, he will do little things on how he records it so it's not too glossy and not too perfect. Like, he puts the imperfections into it, which gives it more personality. So I chose him for this because this one is a lot more stylistic and bold and entertaining than Americana, where Americana was more emotional and drama. But even then, like, I was nervous because I'd never worked with him, and I sent him the edit with what we call temporary music. And I wrote him and I said, I don't care if you match the music I put in. I only care if we can create these following emotions. And then a couple of weeks later, he sent me some stuff he made, and I was like, this is better than I imagined. And then I told him, I want you to do the music for every fucking movie I ever do. And he's still not done. Like, he's still writing. And then once the writing is done, he has to record it. And then, and again, sound is 50%. So the guy doing our sound, so you have sound that you record while you're there. That's the sound guy. But then the post-production sound is a sound designer and a sound mixer. There's a thing called Foley. So like, say you are walking, they make footsteps, or there's birds or crickets, so he will design the sound around the emotion of the scene to heighten the scene. He does all this artistic stuff, and then he takes the score and the dialogue and everything, and he mixes it so it's like movie quality. And this guy has won 7 Grammys. So he's amazing. So like when you watch the edit I sent you, the sound hasn't been done. So the sound goes all over the place, which makes it very amateur. But then when you have a guy come in who mixes it and does everything, it sounds like a movie. And so that's exciting. And then the other guy that I was a huge fan of is our villain is a guy named Timothy Murphy, who, you know, starred in Sons of Anarchy. He was a national treasure. Constantly I'm watching movies and I'm like, it's Tim.
Yeah, he's in a show called he was in I watched the show Snowpiercer, and he was in that for a couple episodes too. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's a master. I mean, he's very kind, has a heavy Irish accent, and then I yell action, and he's got the scariest Southern villain. And there was some scenes we did where he legit scared the shit out of me. I mean, you know, I'm trying to be present, I'm tired, and then all of a sudden he like chokes me in a scene, and he really choked me. Like I couldn't breathe. And then he screamed at me and scared me. But what was even more beautiful is directing him was great, but then editing the scenes and really seeing the detail of all of the 1,000 little tiny choices he makes to bring this character to life. It taught me as a director that a master actor makes your entire movie way better. So moving forward, you know, that's what I want to capture. But anyway, so ironically, when I wasn't able to sleep at night, I would watch Sons of Anarchy on my laptop in my hotel because I have to like have a TV show on in the background to sleep. And it was the season that he came on. So at night, I would watch him being this Irish villain in Sons of Anarchy. And then during the day, he would be my butcher villain on set. And anyway, so that was cool. And then my other villain was this guy named Mike Gonzalez, who is the drummer of the #1 comedy podcast in the world called Kill Tony. And he's like a master drummer. And so that's a big deal in Austin. So he came out and he was a villain, which I found him because this actor named Jesse Garcia, who stars in this movie called Hot Cheeto that Eva Longoria directed. I think it got nominated for a bunch of things. And he just got cast to star in the new Christopher Nolan movie, The Odyssey. But he helped me out and introduced me to some great people. And then I had Tim's right-hand girl villain was this girl named Kiana Kay, who's a model and actress who was in Americana. And now she was in this. And anyway, and then Emma Kotos, who plays my co-star and produced the film, started as a model, big following, over 1 million followers, and then she's got into acting and she's exploding. She's probably shot like 15 movies since we wrapped this. Anyway, so that was the other thing I learned too, is you're only as great as your team. And this one I really got lucky that we assembled pretty awesome team.
Yeah, I mean, the cast is great. Yeah, Timothy's character is pretty intense. I can only imagine what those scenes are going to be like once there's like sound and everything else kind of in it. He scared the shit out of me too, so you can let him know that when he's like screaming in your ear. I'm like, oh, like,
It's just so funny because he's the kindest little Irishman.
Yeah, but wow, I mean, he totally embodied that character for sure. And even just the way he looked, like with like the blood splatters on him, and he was just sweating and kind of dirty, and I mean, the whole thing was just, yeah,
We had real
that was
meat
really
on
good.
him. We put a whole bunch of ground meat, bloody meat on his apron.
Oh,
And so when he was doing the scene with me after we wrapped, I found like dried meat in my hair and on my clothes and and we were both really sweaty because it was like 115 degrees, so we're just sweating on each other and meat and blood. And I was like, whatever you got to do. And then I had to hop on a motorcycle, and I was riding out in the Texas weather, and I would like dead bugs all over my face. And
oh my
it
God.
was every night when I went home, I would have to just shower and wash all my clothes because everything
Yeah.
was drenched in sweat. But again, it was so fun. I wish I could do it all the time.
Yeah. No, it definitely takes a village, and I really do love the fact that like that whole town came together to do this and that they're really into art. Is that where you're going to do the premiere, I'm assuming? Or no, are you
No,
doing
we're
it
going
somewhere
to do
else?
the premiere near there. We're going to do it in Austin at Soho House during South by Southwest. And
Okay.
then there's a huge film festival in Florida in St. Pete that's requested it. So it's going to have a big premiere in April in St. Pete at the Sunscreen Film Fest. And I have like 30 celebrities coming, and we're going to do a whole shindig. And then in September, it'll play in Victoria at their film festival. So we can sort of acknowledge all of the awesome people. And then there's some other film festivals. So we might play in Los Angeles and New York. And so as things start to roll out, we'll announce it. I just realized too, the first podcast interview I did for Americana was with you. And now the
It was.
first podcast interview I'm doing for Ride or Die is with you. It should be like a
I
tradition.
love that. I love that. I love that. What do you want the audience to take away after they see this? Like, what is the reaction that you hope these audience members have, like at the film festivals when they're watching this?
This one I specifically was trying to make so that it was more about entertaining the audience. The sort of underlying theme of it is like we all need connection, and sometimes we meet people in crazy circumstances. And so these two people have their flaws, but deep down inside they're lonely and they need somebody, and so they end up meeting each other through a wild situation. Sort of an entertaining story about love and connection in a crazy, unhealthy way. But for me, I just want to be entertained. I think sometimes movies can get caught up in like, look at how cool this shot is, or look how, pretty this is. And it's more about directors and people trying to flex, when I think the primary rule of a filmmaker should be to entertain. And if you are entertaining an audience, like if I'm working all day and I want to watch something be entertained, I get so disappointed if I feel like I'm being preached to, or it's some arduous, terrible thing, and then I'm bad if I don't like it. It's like, I just want to be taken on a ride, be entertained, have an emotional response, and maybe think about the movie later, maybe want to watch it again. Like, one thing I loved about Top Gun too is like, I've seen it like 5 times, and every time I watch it, it's a fun ride.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's a good comparison. And I would think too, because you said you're getting ready to do a feature film. I mean, to try to tell a story visually like you did in 20 minutes, it's about 20, a little over 22 minutes. I mean, that's quite, for me, like that would be like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have enough time to make this come full circle and be so entertaining and make sense to the person watching it, which by the way, it completely makes sense. And I absolutely love it. And now I can't wait to see it with like all the sound stuff. But now you're going into like a feature film, which takes longer to shoot, takes more people. It's a longer story. I mean, it's just so different too. I mean, how do you prepare for that? Because I feel like that's such a big jump from doing a 20-minute full story to now we've got an hour and a half time slot to fill. How do you, like, what's your mindset into going into that? How is the planning different?
I think the way my brain is set default wise is more feature film storyteller. So it's been a lot harder to edit something into 20 minutes, where I would really want to really let characters breathe and live with them. And so I feel like it'll be a lot harder logistically and technically, but I think it'll be a lot more fun to be able to fully develop and tell a story. Because even Ride or Die is structured like a pilot of a TV show, where we're really building a world and setting things up and leaving on a kind of a mystery. So a movie would be nice if you have a beginning, middle, and end.
Right.
And the subject matter to me is really fun. It's going to be a found footage horror film, but with like a very different original approach to that. I guess it's kind of all I can say. I got two pretty big celebrities that are starring in it. And we're doing it for like no money, run or gun fun, which I kind of like, because it's like, again, a bunch of kids playing. But I'm in the middle of writing it, because the thing I've also learned as a writer, director, and editor on films is like, all of the mistakes and challenges you face in editing are a result of not fully developed things in writing. So I'm really trying to iron those out, so I know exactly what I need to capture. I'm also just psyched. My entire life, I've dreamt of making a movie. I am now 42 as of yesterday, and this will be my first movie. And I'm sort of a ride or die, burn the boat all out, make it or die type of person. So this is sort of my hoorah to just go for it. And going to the Hallmark fans, I would not have been able to do this without them. I mean, the Hallmark fans donated to get this film made. They donated to get this film completed. They've been very supportive of me. I mean, that's something that I didn't predict or have on the cards of like, once I did Americana, I accidentally inherited these incredible fans that are unlike any other fan. Like they actually care and they're actually supportive, and they sort of join the family and movement and get things done. Which I've shot some of the biggest celebrities in the world and had music videos and shot for the biggest magazines, and none of that compares to Hallmark fans. I am so grateful for them because I wouldn't have been able to make Ride or Die or carry on doing narrative filmmaking without them. And so I'm lucky for people like you. And ironically, going to Rama Drama in West Palm Beach changed my life. And I just went there to see Tyler. So, and
Man, I
Andrew.
know that Tyler Hines has his way of working magic even when he doesn't think he's doing that. So yeah,
Yeah,
the
he's
Hallmark
a
fans
good
are something.
guy. Well, Tyler is like, I've had friends my whole life. Obviously, everybody hopefully has friends, but there's people that like step up when you really need them, and that's when you know what real friends are. And when I was fighting for my life, he dropped everything and found me the right doctor. He essentially saved my life. And we were friends before that. But after that, I was like, there aren't many people like you. And there were other people that I knew that were like, billionaires and this and that, and they just disappeared. Fuck those people. And I'm happy that they showed their true colors. But then people like Tyler, it's like he went above and beyond, even while he was shooting movies and tired and, didn't have the time. And I didn't even reach out to him. He found out and he was like, we are going to solve this. And so for that, I'm eternally grateful. And then ironically, his fans are similar. It's like, what are we doing? We making a movie? Let's go. Let's help you raise
So
money.
let's help you raise money. Let's do this. Yeah.
Let's
And
get it done.
I've noticed that just being kind of in that world a bit with doing other interviews with actors and actresses from that channel, seeing his fans interact with you has been really cool to see. Just how they do invite everybody into that space. Because you're not in Hallmark movies, right? I mean, you went there to see Tyler and you kind of we bonded because my maiden name is Schultz and it's spelled the same way as yours. And I was like, oh my gosh, when I see you, like
That's
we have the same
crazy.
last name, right?
Wait, what
Yeah,
I
and
just
then
realized? My camera team for Ride or Die, I met them at Rama Drama at West Palm Beach. The camera
really,
guy came up to me and he's like, who are you? Because all these people were taking pictures with me. He's like, what Hallmark movie have you been in? I was like, none. I'm a nobody. And he was like, what? And then we followed each other on Instagram. And then I called him and he shot Ride or Die with me and he absolutely killed it. But yeah, another thing that I got from Rama Drama.
that is so awesome. Yeah, I mean I mean that's essentially how I got Hearts of Stars was meeting, somebody there to do the television show version of it. And we went back to podcasts, but like you said about being on set with all these people, like for me, I remember like my first like production meeting for the on-site interviews for Hearts of Stars. And I remember sitting in those meetings, like almost in tears by how grateful I was for like other people being just as excited for something that I created. And I don't think there's many people that get to experience that. And for me, I would imagine that's how you feel when you're on set and all these people have come together and are so excited to bring your vision to life. I mean, that's like an incredible feeling.
Yeah, one of my other favorite joys is when I meet a good person and they have a goal or an aspiration, and then I cultivate an environment where they can not only do that, but I push them to better to where they are, and then I see this look on this face of like enthusiasm and excitement and pride. Uh, because I kind of believe that everybody has immense potential, and it's sort of up to them if they're going to flex that muscle. Like I'm no different than anybody else. And I've fought 1,000 celebrities now, and none of them, there's nothing special about them other than they put in the work, you know? And so being on set, and there was a few people that it was their dream to do something, and then I watched them do it, and then they did really good jobs. And they were so excited, and they were like, it's funny if you make somebody not sleep for 4 days, and at the end they're like, when are we going to do this again?
You're like, oh, I did something right. Yeah, I mean, it's like a different breed of person for sure. But I think you too, I mean, creative people just, I think naturally have so much energy. They call it like that creative energy. And just, I guess we don't need a lot of sleep to be doing all that stuff. But I'll be curious to know like how you arrange your sleeping schedule for this feature film. I think that that's going to have to be a topic for our next podcast. So now the rule is going to be that whenever you come out with a new project, you have to come to me first so that I can
I know
interview
it's got to
for
be a
it.
tradition now.
That is going to be a tradition that we are going to have. I love it. But yes, so I think a lot of people are probably going to be wondering then how are they're probably not going to be at these film festivals. How are they going to ultimately be able to see this? Do you know that yet? Or is that something to be determined?
All the people that donated, they're going to get to see a secret link. And then when film festivals are going to be playing it, I'll announce it. So if somebody lives nearby and they want to go, for example, if you want to come to the St. Pete Film Festival, that one will be fun because a lot of people that live around me that I'm friends with are going to go to that. I don't know how many people we can have at the Austin one because I don't know how big Soho House is, but like in Victoria when it airs, people can go to that. So it sort of depends where they're around. And then eventually after the film festival, we'll release it on YouTube and then anybody can watch it, just like Americana. It, interesting thing with Americana is it's been, almost 3 years since the trailer came out, and that's got 22,000 views. And Ride or Die trailer came out a couple months ago, and we just hit 100,000 views. So the following and the viewership is changing and growing. With Ride or Die, it'll do the film festival circuit, and then we'll release it online for everybody. Selfishly, I want to just release it online so everyone can see it, but some film festivals want you
They don't
to
let you do that.
premiere
Yeah.
it. So we got to like do the press and win the awards and play the game. But I made it to entertain audiences. So for me, I just want as many people to see it as possible.
I love it. I can't wait to see it now with all the sound and stuff. Now I'm like so excited. But it was
Hopefully in the next
wonderful.
2 weeks. Okay, good.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. I love that. Love it. And I definitely want to come to St. Pete, so let me know.
Yeah, you're
I
welcome
mean,
to. I think it's April 25th through 27th. So once in March, they'll announce like, I think the lineup. So I should know when ours is playing.
okay. Awesome. Yeah, here to support you any way I can, man. I love it. I
Yeah,
absolutely love it.
thank
Oh, it was so nice to catch up with you, man.
you too.
Okay, honey. Bye.
Bye.